Imagine a millionaire at the top of the city, owner of everything, or almost everything. That's William Stone. One ordinary day, while driving distracted, he takes a wrong turn and ends up on a deserted street. In seconds, everything changes. 3 guys surround his car and take everything: car, phone, wallet. William, the mighty one, suddenly becomes just another lost soul on the sidewalk, confused, with no way to get home. He walks to the main avenue, searching for a cab. Nothing. Phone. Now it's just something to miss. You know what the only option is? Public transport. A few blocks away, Kenna just wants to get home. End of shift, tired from the sandwich shop. She counts every penny to pay for her bus ride and sinks into a seat at the back. And that's when the story really begins. Midway through the ride, the driver stops a passenger. No cash, no ride. The man insists, says he's been mugged. It's William. Invisible, unrecognizable, stripped of status. The driver frowns. The whole bus watches the standoff. Kenna gets up and says, without a second thought, "I'll pay for him." Silence falls. William, stunned, tries to say no. But Kenna just hands the fare to the driver. "It's fine, he's with us." With no choice, William gets on and sits a few seats away. As they roll down the road, he watches Kenna. In William's world, nobody does anything without expecting something in return. But that girl she just helped. When she's about to get off, William finally finds the courage. "Hey, thank you. Seriously, you saved my day." Kenna smiles just a bit. Everybody needs help once in a while. She gets off, disappearing into the night. William doesn't even know her name, but one thing's for sure. He won't forget her anytime soon. For him, someone used to luxury, it was surreal. Helped by a stranger in a plain uniform. It bruised his pride. But for Kenna, it was just a gesture. The kind you make when you've had your own tough times. William arrives home. A luxury building that feels like a universe apart from the bus ride. The doorman, James, is surprised by William's appearance, but William just mutters, "Rough day." But Kenna won't leave his mind. Not that night, not after. The next morning, William wakes up with a mission. Find that girl. He gives the doorman some clues. Blue uniform, downtown route, and soon enough finds the address of her sandwich shop. When he walks in, there she is behind the counter, caught off guard. "I came to pay off the bus debt," he says. Kenna laughs, amused. "No need. But you want some coffee." Over cups of coffee and a bit of honesty, William learns. Kenna's been working there for 2 years, taking night classes, dreaming of running her own bakery someday. She's got drive, no question. When Kenna asks why he believes in her so much, he says, "There are people you just recognize right away." For a guy used to shallow relationships, William senses there's something different here. After that day, he keeps coming back. Again and again. Kenna even starts to tease him. "Here to pay off another debt, millionaire?" He laughs, claiming this time he's paying for his own coffee. With time, questions turn into conversations. Conversations become a habit. Without even noticing, Kenna finds herself looking forward to seeing William every morning. One day, William shows her a picture on his phone. A luxury hotel by the shore. "That one belongs to my family. Help run the place." Kenna's eyes grow wide. But William quickly adds, "I may have grown up in that world, but I've learned one thing. The best things are sometimes in the simplest places." His words linger in Kenna's mind. Between serving customers and dreaming of her bakery, something starts to shift. Later, after a tiring shift, Kenna leaves work and heads to the bus stop. And right there, in the middle of her routine, she spots something unexpected. William, leaning against a car that's nothing like the one from the night of the mugging. He grins. That look of someone who's not such a stranger anymore, and offers her a ride home. Kenna, ever guarded, jokes. Paying off another debt today? But really, it's just a way to break the ice. She hesitates, weighs the moment, and finally agrees. The ride to Kenna's place is quiet, but it's a comfortable quiet, with no rush. Both a little lost in thought, both letting themselves relax. Half laughing, half serious, Kenna breaks the silence. Why does she feel like she should turn down the ride? William smirks, suggesting maybe it's just because he's not a complete stranger anymore. They share a knowing glance, like they're slowly slipping into each other's routines. Near Kenna's house, she asks where William lives. He hesitates, dodges a straight answer, says he stays downtown. Maybe one of those luxury towers she sees from her bus window. Kenna notices he doesn't like to reveal too much. He keeps up the mystery, not to hide anything bad, but because so much of his life has always been mapped out. Kenna suggests maybe it's time to switch up the script. William agrees, and the light mood lingers all the way to her gate. Before she steps out, Kenna asks with a smile if she'll see him at the sandwich shop again. He nods, making it clear it's a promise. The next day, William shows up as promised. This time he says he wants to try something different. Kenna makes him a special coffee. Strong but not bitter. And William approves after the very first sip. She starts noticing the details. His refined manners, the talk of travel, and how he never goes into specifics about where he works. At the same time, her curiosity grows. Who is this man really? A few days later, Kenna gathers the nerve to finally ask about his hotel. William dodges, saying it's not important. That makes Kenna wonder if there's some kind of secret. He admits he prefers people not to know who he really is, so they won't judge him. One random night, Kenna sees William stepping out of a luxury car, chatting animatedly with a guy in a suit on a quiet street. That image hits hard. Does she really know William? What if everything's a front? The next few days, Kenna tries to act normal, but the doubt nags her every time he appears. She notices. William looks comfortable there, but he's not like anyone she's met before. Until, in the middle of a conversation at the sandwich shop, Kenna finally repeats the question. What's the name of the hotel he works for? This time, with a certain look in his eyes, William tells her. Stone Hotels. Kenna freezes. She knows the name. She knows the weight. Stone Hotels means luxury, one of the biggest chains in the country. The puzzle falls into place. His way, the car, the mystery. He's William Stone. And suddenly, she realizes she never really knew who she was dealing with. William takes a deep breath, saying he never told her the truth because he wanted to be seen for more than his last name. He didn't want Kenna to treat him differently just because of his money. Kenna, still shaken, says that shouldn't really change who he is. Or at least it shouldn't. He argues. For most people it does, and he just wanted a chance to be treated like anyone else. Kenna takes it all in. Now she gets why so many things felt off, why he was always at the sandwich shop and not some high-end cafe. But she's caught off guard when William tells her, honestly, that this place is special to him, that he feels more at ease there than at any five-star hotel. After her shift, William waits for Kenna outside. Joking, he says he owes her another ride. Kenna teases, wanting to know if he'll keep hiding secrets. William promises honesty from here on out. That simple promise marks the beginning of a new trust between them. In the car, the mood changes. William asks if she's upset. Kenna laughs lightly, just says she's still trying to understand his craving for anonymity. William admits, sometimes, Just being one more nobody feels more real than living out some role my family wrote for me. Kenna asks what he's really trying to escape. He answers, "I'm still trying to figure that out." The drive home is quiet, but it's a different kind of quiet. Kenna realizes something between them has changed for good. That night, Kenna reflects alone. Now she knows William Stone, the Empire heir, but she needs to figure out if she can trust him. Her mom senses something's up and gently suggests maybe he was just scared of being judged. Maybe he was waiting for the right time to show who he really was. The next day, William shows up looking different. Eyes of someone who couldn't sleep. He admits he's thought a lot about everything and that Kenna was right. He shouldn't have hidden anything. Kenna makes it clear. It's not about the money, it's about hiding part of your life. William opens up, telling her how since he was a kid, he's been groomed to take over for his father. How almost everything's been decided for him. He admits he never wanted to be surrounded by people who only care about money. Kenna saw something fragile and true in that moment. So she asked, what had he really found there, so far from the hotel world? William looked her in the eyes and answered simply and honestly, "I found something real." And just like that, the walls between them truly started to fall. At the end of her shift, she found William waiting outside again. She teased him, smiling. It was starting to feel like a habit. William played along, and though Kenna pretended to act casual, she felt her routine shifting. This time, instead of heading straight to her place, William suggested a small detour. Kenna agreed. They went to a secluded city park, one of those secret spots no one really visits. There was an old gazebo and a lake, the water reflecting the light like a mirror. They sat on a bench and just watched the shimmer on the surface. Quietly, no rush. In that peaceful, almost confessional mood, William opened his heart. He said he couldn't remember the last time something, or someone had made him feel as good as that evening. Kenna held his gaze and, for the first time, felt her heart race, as if something inside her had really changed. When he dropped her off at home, both of them were different. Kenna climbed the stairs with her heart pounding. William, sitting in his car, realized he was falling in love. But at the same time, he was afraid of what he couldn't control. Because, for the first time in his life, he wasn't the one calling the shots. In the days that followed, Kenna tried to pretend things were normal. She wanted to believe it was just curiosity. But deep down, William already occupied a space she was hesitant to admit. The problem was, even close, he still felt like a mystery. With every visit to the sandwich shop, Kenna looked at him differently. Watchful, noticing his gestures, his eyes, the way he always chose his words so carefully when talking about himself. Then everything changed again. One afternoon, just another shift, Kenna was wiping the tables when she heard the TV. Live news showing William Stone, a high-profile businessman, swarmed by reporters at a Stone Hotel's event. Impeccably dressed, distant, and nothing like the man from the bus. Nothing like the guy who drank cheap coffee. Kenna's world tilted. Suddenly, everything felt like a lie. On a burst of impulse, she ripped off her apron and set out for answers. She walked all the way to the hotel from the news. Each step heavy, fueled by a cocktail of anger and disappointment. Once there, security eyed her with suspicion, but she insisted, telling them William would see her. And he did. In that grand, luxurious lobby, Kenna felt totally out of place. William came down the stairs, wearing a suit like armor. He looked at her, surprised. Kenna tried to hold back her anger, but she was hurt. She pointed bluntly to the TV, to the event, accused him of lying. William denied it, said he hadn't really had a choice. But Kenna shot back. Everyone has a choice. He tried to explain, but Kenna, feeling betrayed, stepped away before he could finish. She said bitterly she didn't belong in his world, and doubted if he actually did. She left William standing under the cold lights of the lobby, a new kind of emptiness growing inside him. He, who had always handled everything, always been in control, had no idea how to fix this. He just knew he couldn't let her go. That night was heavy for them both. Kenna curled up on her porch, knees pulled to her chest, until her mother came outside to sit with her. Kenna poured her heart out. She thought maybe she had finally found someone different, only to realize it could have all been just a front. Her mother, calm and gentle, reminded her, "People mess up. Only a real conversation would show whether he'd been honest or not." Kenna was quiet, unsure if she really wanted to know the truth. Meanwhile, across the city, William stared at the colorless city lights. He'd always looked for something real. And now, having found it, he was on the verge of losing it. There was no sleep that night, not a chance. He grabbed his phone, wrote a dozen messages, erased them all. How do you explain you never lied about your feelings? For the first time in his life, William didn't know what to do. The next few days were full of distance, silence, absence. Kenna and William tried to keep up their routines, but nothing fit right. Kenna threw herself into work, trying to ignore the ache of missing him. William drowned in family business, but his thoughts always spun back to her. Breakfast at the sandwich shop felt emptier without William. Mornings were dull without Kenna. She missed everything. The looks, the conversations, the bursts of laughter. But she couldn't forgive until she knew for sure. Was this what he really wanted? Was it real? William knew waiting wasn't enough. If he wanted to be different, he'd have to prove it. He had to break the cycle. So, after another sleepless night, he made a drastic choice. He'd leave Stone hotels, even if it shattered his family's expectations. It was the only way to show Kenna, and himself, he was no longer trapped by a life made for him, not by him. The next morning he told his father, a man who wasn't used to being told no. His dad smirked, called it a passing rebellion. But William stood firm. The old man wanted to know if it was because of that girl. William, with a new kind of composure, said it was about himself. About wanting a life that actually meant something. His father snapped back. He was throwing away everything they had worked for. William corrected him. It was everything they had forced on him, not built together. For the first time in his life, William felt truly in control. On the other side of the city, Kenna tried to settle back into her routine, but it was impossible. The next morning, headlines were unavoidable. William Stone quits Stone Hotels for a new path. She read and reread the article, unable to believe it was real. William, walking away from everything. Was it for her? Kenna's heart pounded for answers. Almost without thinking, she grabbed her phone and typed, "We need to talk." She barely had time to doubt herself. His reply came almost instantly, asking her for a time and place. Kenna picked a cafe near the park. She arrived first and sat by the window, struggling to control the anxiety galloping in her chest. Minutes dragged by until William came in. He looked different, lighter but also more serious. He sat across from her. For a while, neither said a thing. The air was heavy, every silence telling its own story. Kenna was the first to speak. She asked if he really had left the company. William met her eyes and confirmed it. She needed to know why. She needed to hear it from him. William answered calmly that he'd never wanted that life. It wasn't his dream. He wanted to build something of his own, something that actually mattered. Kenna watched every move, searching for any sign of a lie, but all she found was honesty. "And what about her?" Gently, William told her. "She always meant something to him." Kenna shivered, confessing in a low voice that she didn't know if she could trust him, but wanted to try. A shy smile crept onto William's face. He promised he wouldn't let her down. Kenna nodded, and right then, she felt their fate really had changed. The days that followed felt different. They kept in touch, but carefully, like people learning how to feel again. Kenna wanted to believe William had truly changed, and it did seem like he had. William was more genuine, more present. But Kenna still hesitated to surrender to this new reality. One afternoon while working, Kenna saw William's car stop in front of the sandwich shop, as if time had rewound. He came inside, sat at the counter, smiling like old times. "Thought you forgot the way," Kenna teased. William grinned back. Hard to forget the best coffee in town. Then he shared some news. He was starting something totally new, completely outside his comfort zone. A small, personal, homey hotel in a coastal town where he'd spent part of his childhood. Nothing grand like before, but a place he could truly call his own. The goal was to build something in his own way, and he wanted Kenna with him. Kenna was stunned. He wanted her to live her old dream, open her own bakery inside the hotel. William was serious. He wanted to build it all at her side. That night, Kenna barely slept. It was everything she'd ever wanted, but it was a huge step. What if it didn't work? But something inside her whispered, "This is it." The next day, she met William at the cafe. He was waiting, nervous and hopeful. Kenna took a deep breath, smiled, and said yes. William's eyes lit up. She made it clear. She wanted to do things her way, in her own style. He promised that was always the plan. In that moment, Kenna knew she was setting off on a journey that would change her life forever. Days grew intense. Meetings, task lists, dreams scribbled on napkins. The new hotel was taking shape in a small town full of charm and breathtaking views. Leaving the familiar world behind was scary. But it was freeing too. William seemed like a new man. Excited, lighter, finally building something from scratch, his own way. On a chilly, windy night by the sea, they sat together reviewing their plans. William was confident. This project had all the makings of a success. Kenna confessed how she felt. Everything was so perfect it almost didn't feel real. William took her hand, told her she deserved all of it, that she was there because of her own effort. And he promised, "Even if it's not perfect from day one, we'll figure it out together." The next morning they went to see the property. An old mansion near the ocean. Kenna felt the place buzzing with history, and William explained that restoring it was important, out of respect for the past, and for the future they shared. He asked if she'd thought of a name for the bakery. Kenna smiled gently. "La Dolce Vita. Because now I want a sweet life." Her heart raced. It was all finally becoming real. Their days became a mix of work at the cafe, meetings with the architect, phone calls, notes, and dreams drawn out with William. It was exhausting but worth it. Kenna realized little by little, she wasn't just falling for the new project, but for the man building it by her side. On a freezing night, walking along the beach, William suddenly stopped. He looked at Kenna, took her hand. He hesitated, searching for the words. He told her this, the hotel, the bakery, the new start, it was all because of her. Not just business. It was about what he felt. Kenna froze. Could barely breathe. William admitted he wasn't sure he was great with speeches, but he needed her to know. She'd changed everything in him. Kenna was honest. She felt the same. He smiled softly and asked for a promise. "Don't run when things get hard." "Touch," Kenna promised. She knew right then she was exactly where she was meant to be. Time sped up. The hotel grew, the bakery took shape. Kenna had never been so invested in anything. She chimed in on every detail of the cafe, while William focused on the renovation. For the first time, he felt like the future was finally in his own hands. Not everything was easy in Kenna and William's dream. Just as everything started falling into place, the first big surprise hit. One ordinary morning, while Kenna was organizing bakery paperwork, William walked in, tense, missing his usual smile. The news hit like a bucket of cold water. The construction company said the renovation would cost twice as much as planned. The building was older than it looked, and would need a massive reinforcement in its foundations. The timeline, already tight, would be stretched for months. Kenna felt the world spin. Their budget barely covered what they already had planned. William explained that even with their savings, covering that amount would mean pushing everything back. Kenna suggested cutting corners, sacrificing details, simplifying. William shook his head, determined, saying he wanted the place just like they dreamed. No shortcuts. So together they decided to wait. William didn't stop praising Kenna. Her calm, her courage, her patience. She smiled, starting to realize that trusting the process was part of the challenge. He held her hand, promising they'd do it together, no matter how long it took. But the delay brought doubts, rumors. People around town whispered that the hotel would never get built. Kenna and William pressed on. Every day they checked on the site, followed each brick, each new piece of furniture, every bakery recipe she tested. Deep down they couldn't help but feel proud. William tasted Kenna's creations, raved about each one, and she joked he was way too loyal a customer. Sometimes they'd just look at each other in silence and think, who would have guessed? They never imagined this future, and yet they were happy. But life always throws you new tests. Just as the bakery was nearly ready, William got a phone call. The tone on the other end changed everything. It was his father, asking for an urgent meeting. Kenna, just seeing William's worried expression, felt those old nerves stirring. William hesitated but went. Before leaving, he promised Kenna, "I'm not going back to the company." When he returned hours later, he was even more resolved. His father had tried everything. "This is madness, William. You could be running an empire, not just a little inn on the beach." William thanked him but chose his own path. He chose Kenna. Her eyes shining, she said she believed in him. In that moment, they both understood. Nothing could come between them. Finally, the big moment arrived. The hotel and bakery were just about finished. Kenna looked at the newly restored facade, breathed in the smell of bread from the oven, and her heart raced. It was real. William, across the street, was sharing ideas with the new staff, looking like a man at peace. When they met, Kenna smiled and said, "We did it." He held her hand and replied, "We made something one of a kind." Kenna admitted her fear. "What if it failed?" William answered calmly, "Maybe it'll work out. And even if it doesn't, we'll start again." They were ready for whatever came their way. Opening day finally came, with sun and that scent of new beginnings. Right at noon, the first customers walked in. Prepping the recipes, Kenna felt a joy that was impossible to describe as the positive comments and happy faces rolled in. William made his rounds in the hotel, noticed every detail, stopped by the bakery to smile at Kenna and shower her with praise. When they finally closed up that night, they sat together outside, looking at the silver ocean. William said this was only the beginning. Kenna squeezed his hand, grateful. She never would have made it there without him, and he replied, "I always believed in you." In that moment, they knew. They were happier than they'd ever thought possible. The next morning, Kenna was the first one in. William showed up soon after, smiling, carrying a bouquet. a gift for the owner of the best bakery in town. Kenna laughed, calling him dramatic, and he just cupped her face with a tenderness that said everything. They shared whispered confessions of happiness, and a kiss, the kind that seals everything you've both given up to build something new. Little by little, word spread about the new bakery and the hotel. The place became a local hotspot. Kenna worked harder than ever but never complained. Every day was worth it. William, involved in every single detail, looked like a brand new man, proud to have built something from the ground up. Their dream had become reality. But peace never lasts forever. One afternoon, as Kenna was restocking the shelves, the phone rang. Unknown number. For some reason, she picked up. On the other end was Eric, her ex, part of a past she wished would stay buried. He was reaching out, talking about the success of the bakery, asking how she was. Kenna, steady, ended the call. She wanted nothing from that chapter. Later, William noticed Kenna was distracted, off. She brushed it off at first, but when he pressed, Kenna decided to be honest. She told him her ex had called. William was quiet for a moment, then asked if Eric wanted anything. Kenna said she didn't know and didn't care. William said he trusted her, but Kenna could sense tension in the air. She reassured him. There was nothing to worry about. He tried to smile, but she knew William Stone well enough to see he wouldn't let it go so easily. The next day, while Kenna was bustling around the cafe early, William set out to deal with this situation on his own. He was determined. Not for a second would he let someone from her past come in and threaten what they'd built. And once he learned who Eric really was, he made a choice. He'd never let a guy like that anywhere near Kenna again. That night, as Kenna was closing up the bakery, William was waiting outside. The air between them felt different. There was a calm urgency, as if they both knew it was finally time to say everything out loud. William decided to be completely honest. Looking her straight in the eye, he asked her to promise she'd never let anyone like Eric from her past ruin what they had now. Kenna raised her eyebrows, surprised, but was direct. Eric meant nothing and never would again. Still, William wanted to understand why that call had rattled her so much. Kenna looked away, admitting that some old scars just take time to heal. But all she wanted in that moment was to move on. William clasped her hand tightly and told her it was time to let the past go, because their future, a future for both of them, was right there in front of them. Kenna's eyes softened. She asked, half smiling, if that future really included William. He returned the smile, gentle and full of meaning, and said yes if that's what she wanted. Kenna took a deep breath, squeezed his hand hard, and for the first time, said it with no hesitation. She wanted that future with him. Right there, under the warm lights of the shop, Kenna felt it in her bones. The past would never hold power over her again. What mattered now was who she chose to write her next chapters with. And this time, that choice was hers alone. The sun was setting, painting the coastal town in oranges and golds. The curtains danced with the breeze, and the rhythm of the bakery tasted like victory. Kenna made some last adjustments at the counter, tired but in the best way, fulfilled and at peace. William leaned beside her, asking if she was worn out. Kenna admitted she was, but it was the good kind of tired, and the light in her eyes was all the answer he needed. William smiled, enchanted, saying he'd never doubted her, not even for a second. Kenna, with soft affection, thanked him, insisting she'd only made it this far because he'd been by her side. William took her hand, weaving his fingers through hers, and confessed she would have made it anyway. But everything was better because they'd faced it all together. The quietness between them was filled by the sound of waves outside and the unspoken hopes hanging in the air. William took a deep breath, like someone standing on the edge of something big, and asked, "Have you thought about the future? Do you see yourself with me 10, 20, maybe even 50 years from now?" Kenna's heart skipped a beat, but she didn't hesitate. She said yes. William smiled, letting go of her hand just long enough to pull a small velvet box from his pocket. Before Kenna even realized what was happening, he was on one knee, and time itself seemed to freeze. Kenna's eyes went wide, her breath caught. William's voice trembled with emotion as he started to speak, remembering that day she paid his bus fare, admitting he'd never imagined a woman like her could turn his life upside down. Tears welled in Kenna's eyes. William went on, telling her she taught him happiness couldn't be bought. Real happiness was about being with someone who made every day worthwhile. Finally, he opened the box. A beautiful, simple ring. And he asked the question, "Kenna, will you marry me?" She didn't even have to think. Through tears and a shaky voice she said, "Yes." William slipped the ring onto her finger, stood, and wrapped her in a hug that made the world fall away. The cafe filled with applause as even a few customers wiped away tears. Kenna, laughing and crying, pulled him close and said through smiles, "I love you." And with nothing left to hide, William replied, "I love you more." As he kissed her, it was a kiss filled with every promise, every piece of the past they'd overcome, and a future that began right there that night. The months that followed felt like a fairy tale. Their wedding was held at sunset, right by the ocean. A simple, heartfelt ceremony with white flowers scattered in the sand and a gentle breeze blessing the altar. Kenna walked down the sandy aisle in white, eyes locked on William, her whole world in a single look. As they took each other's hands, it was as if nothing else existed. Through tears, William confessed that it was only after meeting Kenna he realized what he'd been missing and where real happiness could be found. Kenna admitted, deeply moved, that he'd taught her to believe in impossible dreams, and promised to stand by him through every challenge and every triumph from then on. The officiant smiled, held up the magic of the moment, and declared them husband and wife. The beach erupted in applause. William kissed Kenna with the truth and tenderness of all their days together. And in that moment, they both knew beyond a doubt, they were exactly where they always belonged, together. In the days following the wedding, Kenna and William's routine never went back to the way it began. New challenges arrived, surprising customers came, and every now and then, the same old doubts crept in. But now, every choice was made side by side. In running the hotel, creating new bakery recipes, or during sunset strolls. In that little town by the sea, their story became an inspiration. Everyone knew that there, starting over was always possible. And even after all they'd faced, William and Kenna never stopped believing that the secret to true happiness was actually pretty simple. Sharing your dreams, trusting each other, and above all, never forgetting how it all began. With a small act of kindness that changed everything forever. Because sometimes, all it takes to change a life is one act of kindness. Or just the courage to bet on a new beginning. And if you made it this far, remember, everyone deserves a second chance, even in the most unlikely love stories. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel, share it, and tell us in the comments about a moment when a small act of kindness made a difference in your life. Because these stories only matter if they inspire. And maybe your story will be the next one we share here. Be like William and Kenna. Don't be afraid to start over, to let go of what no longer fits, and to fight for what really matters. The path might be tough, but the best endings are born from the most unlikely new beginnings.